Welcome to the 100th episode of the God Hears Her podcast. Yeah. I'm one of the producers, Daniel Ryan Day. I'm sitting next to the other producers of the show. We've got our hosts here, and we're ready to celebrate and have some fun together.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the cool things about the God that we serve is we serve a God who, yes, meets us in the hard things of life, but also a God who invites us to celebrate. And so we're going to celebrate today. We're going to share some of the things we've learned from the show. So it'll probably get serious at times too. We may or may not draw attention to some of the idiosyncrasies,
bloopers,
repetitive lines.
Okay.
The kind of go-to sayings that Elisa and Eryn may or may not have.
And we
Maybe
hear
we
over
don't
and
have
over
that.
and over and over.
We're unique every single time.
In fact, already this recording has gone too long without mentioning the Enneagram. So
Yes.
I'm a 3.
Thank you, number 2.
It's about every 3 minutes. I
Yes,
think,
that's
when
right.
we record.
That's right.
So we're going to have some fun today and celebrate, share what we've learned, draw attention to some of the fun behind-the-scenes moments. And before we even do that, we just want to acknowledge the many people that are behind the scenes that make this happen. In fact, there's a lot of people here. And
Thank you.
That's a standing ovation.
yeah, that's right. Specifically, I want to thank Ann Stevens and Gabby Bauer, who just behind the scenes make this happen. And we're so thankful for them. And all the review people that help us. And in fact, it was through reviewing that we met Mary Jo. Because when we first started the show, Our Daily Bread came to me and was like, hey, we want to get into podcasting. Let's do a show for women, and let's work with Elisa, because Elisa does other things with the ministry. So why don't you guys test some recordings and see what happens? So we did 4 original interviews, one with Eryn, which was fun.
And that was super cool. Eryn and I met in the hotel lobby because
Yep.
she brought her up to do a podcast. Eryn lives in Atlanta. I live in Denver. And we met in the hotel lobby. And I always call it like a ministry blind date. You know,
Yeah.
so much fun. And like within 3.5 seconds, we were like, oh, I'm in love. Boom. I just love her. So.
In
Anyway,
fact,
as you were saying.
if you want some behind the scenes, in the very first recording we ever did with Elisa and Eryn, the way the studio is set up is there's this divider between the chairs so that when they film, people don't get in each other's way. And within like 3 minutes, Eryn and Elisa had pulled each other's chairs across the divider so that they could sit right next to each other during the recording, and that's when we knew there was probably something special between the two of them.
So sweet. There's a speed bump of like tape and wires that we had to get past. But
We did it.
And then we recorded the first 4 episodes, one of which was with Eryn. And then we had this review group of women who wanted to listen. And we were trying to figure out what we even call this thing. And I think the original name was Seen and Heard.
That's right.
Is what we thought. And this group of women came in and shared what they thought of the first 4 episodes, one of which was someone from our transcription and correspondence department at Our Daily Bread named Mary Jo.
Yeah. My journey with God Hears Her is just crazy because before the focus group was transcribing, I transcribed Margaret Feinberg's The Taste and See episode, which actually, as I transcribed, before it was even a show, I was like, I want this book. I want my small group to do it.
Wow.
And I knew that God Hears Her would reach people because it already touched me to want to share this book with from Margaret. So that was my start, and then joining the focus group and was really just beautiful for me because I've loved audio for years and wanted to be part of it again, and I got to do that in the focus group and start with Elisa and then Eryn joining, and so it was a beautiful journey for that.
Although I will maybe mention one thing that hopefully you're okay with.
We'll find out.
One of the reasons I was glad you were in that focus group is an early conversation that Mary Jo and I had was, I don't like shows for women.
I don't. I'm a producer of God Hears Her now.
Which is great because you bring a different
I
perspective
do.
because
I think
of that reason.
there's a lot of women that it is a struggle to always connect. And I'm not a naturally bubbly person. We have 2 beautifully bubbly hosts for the show. So it was a journey to feel part of it and to know. And then I loved being in the focus group because I did feel like it became a story, a listening experience for everyone. And so becoming a producer was such a joy to be able to be part of that as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing that secret, Danny. I love it now.
I want to know though, like, what was the reason for why you didn't connect with women's shows?
Yeah, I think, well, there's the few different things. As a Christian in a sort of Midwestern feel, a lot of female representation is talking about married life, children, and ministry in that way. And I was single through all my 20s, dated but wasn't married, so I just never felt like I was being spoken to. And I had to fight, since being a teen, fight against the idea that I didn't have purpose unless I was married, unless I was a wife and a mother. And so it was definitely a journey for a lot of different women's conferences and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's something that I did really appreciate about God Hears Her, is we had two hosts, different generations, different lives, and different guests as well that didn't have necessarily the story of married and this is what your Christian life should look like as a woman.
Yeah.
So for me, it did become a joy. And becoming a producer, then I could specifically speak to the women that I know felt the same way that I did, and reach out to guests that could speak more on a variety of topics rather than what I felt like I was hearing. So
isn't it interesting how God often uses something that we're not thrilled about, to draw us into it, to connect us to what he desires. I mean, I had some similar issues with being uncomfortable with women, and I ended up being president of MOPS, and I wasn't even a mother biologically, and I've never been pregnant. It's the weirdest thing. But I think sometimes we disqualify ourselves, or we think we're the only ones,
Yes.
And when we share that real struggle, that reality of where we are, everybody kind of like pops up out of the woodwork going, me too, me too.
Yeah.
And you know what? Please keep talking.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary Jo.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, one of the meaningful conversations that we had early on that made me so excited, especially when you became a producer too, was the way you pushed back on the phrase "choose joy." And as a result, and as a result, we ended up having a guest come in, which was one of the more meaningful conversations to talk about mental illness, mental struggles, depression, anxiety, which was one of the better shows I think that we've
Sarah
done.
Robinson,
if we can do that,
right?
Yeah.
It was so freeing. She really helped us understand that God can hear all of our feelings. Thanks for that connection. That was really good.
And it only took about 8 minutes or so for Elisa to mention that she was the president of MOPS. That was 3 years ago that we did that focus group, and then the show launched, and now we've done 100 episodes, but it was just recently, about a year and a half ago, Jade, that we had an intern join us in a kind of unconventional way.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to share some of that story.
Yeah, the most unconventional way. I don't know if you guys have heard this story,
but I'm excited.
Yeah, so I actually didn't like podcasts before becoming a producer for a podcast.
There's a theme.
I know.
Right now.
And I remember people would always tell me that I needed to get into podcasts, and they'd recommend them, and I would just try to listen, and nothing ever clicked for me. And so when I interviewed here at Our Daily Bread, which is where our podcast is produced, I actually started off interviewing for editing and publishing. And I thought that I wanted to go into editing and publishing, and I didn't get the internship. And I just thought, okay, this isn't meant to be for me. But then a couple days later, I get a call, and I actually interviewed with Daniel the first time for Reclaim Today, and didn't get the internship. And so I thought, okay, I'm not meant to be at Our Daily Bread. It's not going to work out. And then I get another call for being an intern for podcasting. and I had to meet with Daniel again, and I just thought, there's no way I can face this man after he rejected me the first time.
That's
I was
so
like,
real.
there's no way. And I prayed about it beforehand and just felt the nudge to try it out and see what happened. And so I showed up and I met Daniel and Mary Jo, and it was kind of similar to your story where you two just clicked immediately. I remember Mary Jo knew my story with the other interviews. And during the interview, she just said, I know that this isn't what you wanted, and I know that this may not be where you end up, but I just want you to know that it's awesome that you're trying this, that you want this experience, that you're still here interviewing. And I was like, I love this woman. I don't know anything about her, but she's incredible. And then next thing I knew, I had the internship, and it just has been such a blessing. And now I'm here full time, which is an ultimate blessing. So
for us too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
In fact, now Jade is the lead producer of the show, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And one of the things that I love that's already kind of coming out as we talk is one of the things about sharing stories about how God works in our lives is how it relates to one another and encourages one another and challenges one another. So we have, God meeting us maybe in a way that for other women, he might meet them this way, but God inviting you, Mary Jo, to be who you are and to bring that and to let you know that he sees you and hears you in that way. And then Jade, the way God directs our steps, the way God puts us in community with one another. And it's just so neat, I think, as we share stories to hear how God meets us in those moments. And
and it's interesting, we started off in person. And then we really needed to pivot.
There we go.
Pivot.
Take a turn.
Have you ever heard Elisa say pivot?
This is my first time hearing that.
To a remote kind of platform because of COVID, and then it just became a really neat stewardship of time and money too. But I think it's interesting to think how close our relationships have unfolded, and with Gabby and Ann and the rest of the team too. Even though we don't see each other in person very often at all.
It's so true.
But makes moments like this so much more special too, because I think that I was working on the show for a year maybe before I was with you guys in person, and so you actually were here for the first time that we were all together.
I hugged you and I was like, "You're a real person,
not a floating head."
This is you.
And
which speaks to authenticity that you can't just fabricate it. Like we connected so well.
It was so genuine.
Video. For so long, which just says a lot about our connection.
Question for the audience: have they ever heard Eryn go, "That is so good"?
So good.
And you have to take a pause after. So good.
Or I love that.
I love that.
I love that so much.
Y'all gotta get the inflections. I love that.
Maybe we could just go around too and share a little bit about what are some of the more meaningful conversations that really stand out to you as you think about the show. What are some of the interviews we've done, or conversations or moments where God met you and or spoke to you in some way?
Well, I'll say, as we were talking about just how we even got connected, I think Elisa may know this, but I remember the day before Our Daily Bread contacted me about coming to be a part and do an interview, I had a pastor tell me that he felt like I should not have a microphone due to me going through a divorce. And it devastated me. And what I learned through it is that when Our Daily Bread contacted me, I'm like, oh my goodness, this opportunity, like God always has the final say. And even sometimes when we as believers hurt each other with our words, God always reminds us of our value and our worth. And it was such an honor to be able to be in this space and be on a microphone, sharing my testimony and what he's done. And when I think back to some of the guests that we've had, I mean, there's been so much conviction and heart check and awareness that I reflect back on my own journey and what these guests have really gifted us. I mean, we've been on the other side of life change. With how many people? I don't know, 100 episodes. How many people is it? 70?
70 people.
70 people. Wow. We've been a part of just seeing their life be changed in so many turns. And it's so hard. Like when you were asking, like, where do we even begin, honestly?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know, because every story impacted me, and there would be moments that I would just be crying. I remember the Carrie Job episode. Man, when she talked about going into the closet after feeling completely attacked by the enemy with her thought life, with her family, with her career, and she just yelled at the enemy, and then that's where the blessing came from, that song, which is so powerful. I see it so differently now, and it's my anthem when I feel like I just need to proclaim who God is in my life. So she was one for sure that I really, really, really liked.
Yeah, when she shared that story of her, of the baby carriage going down,
I
the
know.
hill,
Yes.
and her baby falling into the water. It was
Yeah.
just, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Chilling.
Yeah.
I was really convicted by our conversation with Tiffany Bloom. And Tiffany Bloom was dealing with issues of, sexual harassment and gender harassment. And she pointed out in her story and shared an experience where she had risen to a place of power in a ministry. And other women were being damaged, and she felt like she didn't do enough to speak up for them. And even more so, she shared that she recognized that she had benefited from the very system that was wounding these other women. And I just was very convicted to watch more carefully about the systems I live in.
Yeah, for sure. That actually kind of reminds me of one of my favorite episodes, which was with Robert Jelinas. It was early on. It was episode, I think, 8.
Can I mention now that he's my pastor?
How
many minutes are we in?
That's right.
Robert Jelinas is my pastor, and I love him.
You know some of the things you mention often.
A little bit self-aware, but not clearly all the way. Okay.
In that conversation, I think it was titled "When We Feel Invisible," and he talked about honoring people with which we disagree at the end of that conversation as a pastor, and specifically talking about women and leadership and how he as a pastor has to honor women on both sides of that by honoring those who feel gifted and giving them the space to live in their gifts, but then honoring those who don't see it as something that they should do, and giving them that space and not being patronizing either way. And I remember being so challenged by that myself, because I tend to be one of those people with strong ideas. In fact, that's one of the roles our Daily Bread has asked me to do often, is like from a theological review standpoint or whatever. And the fact that we are called to honor each other, even when we disagree, especially when we disagree, because we're talking to another person who we need to honor the fact that they have a brain to think through things, they have a heart to feel things, and God might be doing something different in them than he is in me. And at the end of the day, they might also be right. And I'm wrong. But I remember that one. Anyway, for some reason, your story kind of triggered that memory for me of him just honoring people on both sides of an issue. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, going off of that one, speaking of honoring people, one episode that just really spoke to me was Alexandra Kirkendall, when she was talking about loving your neighbor throughout those differences and in every conversation, and just remembering to love them. And one thing that she talked about was when we don't like someone, because as people, I mean, we meet people that we don't like. It's just truth.
And
it's
you're
what
a
happens.
Christian? You're
I know.
Jesus.
Why am I saying this? But
you did look at me when you said that too.
You did.
I know.
I
don't like
Daniel.
Even with people we don't like.
I was
still
proving a
feeling
point.
that interview, the rejection is still there.
It still comes out every once in a while.
Forgiveness is a journey.
True. But when we think about the people that we don't like, I think it's important to remember to love them, even when we don't agree with them, and even when we don't connect with them very well. We can still show love to them, and that really just stood out and convicted me.
What do you think that looks like in showing love to them?
Will you unpack that?
Unpack that.
Could you unpack that?
I'd really like to hear you say more about how you love people.
Now I feel like I'm being interviewed on that. Okay.
I just wanted to know, how did it hit you?
I think listening is a big thing for me, especially when I don't like someone or I don't agree with them. I want to be quick to shut them down and just not even talk about it or go there. Or if I don't like someone, I don't want to talk to them because, you know, you just don't really want to be around them. But then I miss out on a chance to learn from them, and I miss out on a chance to maybe like them a little bit more because maybe they say something that I do like or I agree with, and then maybe I just have more respect for them as a person, or I do learn to love them. So I think showing love can be just listening to what they have to say. And I also just think showing up as your best self, not showing up with the rejection or the hurt from the past, to showing up and wanting to meet them as if you're meeting them for the first time, and just having a clean slate with them. I think that's another way to show love.
Yeah, that's so good. Right, Eryn?
I wasn't going to say it.
So you were thinking it.
I was thinking it. I said it internally.
It's also been a while since
we're
we
going to
brought
be
up
like,
I know. The next podcast
right.
that we record, y'all are going to be like, y'all never engaged. Like,
right.
ran out of words.
Yeah. Well, as a 2 on the Enneagram.
Just tell us more, Daniel.
Jade's points did make me think of the Enneagram that we so often bring up, but you could also, for people that don't like the Enneagram, think about it with love languages.
Yeah.
Or what animal are you?
Yeah. What's your color?
With the Enneagram, though, we did talk to Dr. Jerome, and so talking about loving your neighbor, like, different personality types accept love in different ways. I don't like that much conflict. I'm a peacemaker. I want to.
She's a 9.
I'm a 9.
She's a 9.
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
Well, because Jade talking about like not liking someone or even like disagreeing with them, it's just like, just don't even talk to me. You know. And I struggle with, you know, I still want to be their best friend because that's part of my issues, but I don't want to disagree. I don't want the conflict. Whereas Eryn thrives in, like, maybe not conflict, but thrives in confrontation or directness.
Yeah.
Straightforward.
I feel loved by honesty and directness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so learning to love your neighbor by learning their personality and knowing, like, they may be speaking a different language, as Dr. Jerome put it, but they may speak a different language, but you can learn that language and know how to best love them, even if it's not your comfort zone. Like, step out.
Well,
step
isn't
out
that
of your
love?
box.
Because that's actually being so selfless to learn how to love the way that somebody else receives it versus the way you think they should receive it.
The way you want it.
Yeah. And you can be honest about that too. You can let them know, like, this is out of my comfort zone, but this is me loving you, and this is maybe how I accept love as well.
I think now would be a good time to maybe make fun of ourselves as producers.
Okay.
This is where if we were editing the show, we would wait for one of you to say something like, and you know, probably the biggest thing I've ever learned, and then we'd cut and do the midpoint break.
We got to keep the audience.
So, that's right. So those listeners at home, we know we do that. We're sorry for those moments where it's like, the most important thing I've learned, cue music, when we come back. But while we've broken the conversation for a second, I do want to acknowledge one group of people we haven't acknowledged yet, and that is Our Daily Bread Ministries is completely funded by people that send in really small gifts, bigger gifts, whatever, out of the generosity of their hearts and out of connecting with the ministry and the mission of making the life-changing wisdom of the Bible understandable and accessible to all. This ministry effort, God Hears Her, is a part of that. And so we want to thank those of you who have supported us and helped pay for the 100 episodes so that women can hear that message, that God hears them and sees them and knows them and loves them because they're His. And as we say in the open, and hopefully that frees all of us to become the people God has for us to become. So thank you for that. And if you want to help this ministry keep going, we'll have opportunities in the show notes.
Yep. Our Daily Bread has been funded by faithful donors, so thank you.
In fact, during the pandemic, some of us had to work in the mailroom because we needed to volunteer because there was so much mail coming in. And I remember opening envelopes of a handwritten note with like $5 stuck in the envelope. And so there's so many different ways that people have supported, and we're so thankful for that. We literally could not do it outside of that, so thank you. And one of the ones I wanted to mention, you mentioned Taste and See with Margaret Feinberg early on. And that one actually met me at a pretty cool time too, because it was one of the first ones we recorded. And my wife and I had just moved to take the job here at Our Daily Bread. And one of our biggest needs, worries, fears was needing community and hoping to find a community that we could plug into. And in that conversation, Elisa, you and her talked about something that has stuck with me since that day. And that was that sometimes to find community, you have to be the community that you want to find. And that, episode 4.
It was
Taste
early.
and See.
It was
And
early.
that line stuck with me. Sometimes we have to be the community that we want to find. And you have a different piece that you usually say after that, if you remember what that is. It's usually sometimes the best way to build community is not to go and serve others, but to actually ask people for help too.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. See, you've
That's
listened to it
hard.
more than me. So it makes people feel valued when we ask for help. And, we think we're supposed to be all done tying up with a bow. I'm just, bing, that's what being a perfect Christian is. And, lots of times it's I've got a need. I've got a need. Would you help me? As you're talking, Daniel, I'm thinking about the journey. And Daniel and I served together in Discover the Word, another podcast and radio program. And so I knew Daniel there before we started the God Hears Her. But it's so interesting. We celebrated our 100th episode with a little meal together, and it's always Daniel and the girls kind of thing. Daniel and the lions, Daniel and the girls. Let's see. But what is it like for you as a man? Working with all of us, and actually in many ways leading us too towards the vision that we all have to accomplish. What's it like for you?
I think I see it more as creative followership than leading, because the Lord has brought the team here to lead, and it's more just being asking God to keep me open-minded to where the spirit of the conversation is going, or the topic, or the person that one of you brings and says, I really want to talk with this person, and trusting that God is behind the scenes working in that. And of course, sometimes we turn each other down, right? There's been ideas I've had where it's like, hey, well, I don't think so. And, sometimes I have to be that person. And but I think it's that mutual respect for each other that really it's like a co-leading as a team, very much so. I also, though, and I can't remember, maybe one of you can help me remember which conversation this was, but we interviewed someone who mentioned that she grew up with all brothers and then ended up in a job where she worked with all men and felt like she was prepared in that way. It's okay if you can't remember. For me, I grew up with all sisters. And so in some ways, I feel like that was God shaping me for even this role.
See, I've seen that in you. And there's a little tidbit, a trivia thing I want to throw out here for our audience, and I hope it's okay. There's a voice in our intro, in the God Hears Her intro. And when we were doing the pilots of it, I said, oh my gosh, I love that woman's voice. Who is she? Because I hear a lot of women's voices, and I'm not cray about some of them, But I said, Daniel, that voice, the intro is beautiful. Who is that? And she is
my wife.
Isn't that neat? I mean, y'all may not know that, but that's kind of cool.
I love that.
I know. I love that too.
And that happened because as we were getting ready to launch this thing,
you couldn't do it.
A pandemic started.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we were all working from home. And so I was like, hey, Rebecca, I need to record this. Could you come into the closet for a second so that it would like dampen the sound? And
so good.
Let's put a robe over your head so that we can dampen as much of this noise as possible and have you record this. And shout out to her. She hates things like that, but was willing to do it.
Perfect.
And yet she's part of every episode.
Yeah, yes, she is.
And maybe there's a little note in there for all of us that sometimes that's how God has seen her and met her in a way that she wouldn't be comfortable with necessarily or feel prepared for.
Sometimes he uses us in unlikely ways, right?
Yeah.
What other episodes come to mind?
Well, everyone's have been so like feeling like, I don't know, inspirational and joyful. my favorite word. But the two that I want to speak on for a moment, we brought up one, Sarah Robinson, and then also Dr. Christina. Those two,
She was great.
I think Dr. Christina, for me, I had heard her on the Where You From podcast, which is also another Our Daily Bread podcast, and loved her because the conversation of mental health just isn't talked about enough. And so we had her on God Hears Her, just talking about different things like brain health and, you know, being honest about those things and real with community. But then Sarah J. Robinson was able to talk more specifically on depression and intrusive thoughts. And those things, I don't know, just growing up in the 90s, I don't remember those things being talked about. I have been honest with God Hears Her before about growing up in a household that did have mental health struggles. My mom's bipolar, and so those things were real for me, but nobody talked about it outside of the home. So having Sarah on the show was just so beautiful for me, and being able to hear someone talk just honestly and want to share her story so that people don't feel alone in that. And to know, like, a lot of people that struggle with depression or anxiety, it can be a circumstantial thing that happened because of a triggering event. And it could be kind of over after a couple of years. But then there's such a large group of people, community, that it is a clinical thing that can last their life. And it's not because they aren't praying hard enough. It isn't because God doesn't hear them or see them. And it isn't because they can't just flip a switch, you know. It is their reality. And that I'm just so grateful that we were able to have those guests to be able to speak to women so they don't feel alone in that and know that God hears them.
I loved her metaphor that, you know, the brain is an organ, just like every, you know, if you had something wrong with your kidney or your liver or your heart or your foot, you know, you would treat it. And the brain is an organ. I really appreciated that.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Christina was really helpful in thinking through a lot of things. In fact, it was in a conversation with her. She mentioned in passing, if you turn your phone to black and white, you're less likely to use it. And I've had my phone on black and white since. And it's true. So helpful.
Well, that brings me to thinking about Vivian Mabuni's podcast, When We Don't Fit In. And I remember after that, I called one of my girlfriends who's Asian, and I said, I'm so sorry. And the reason I felt convicted by it and just had an awareness is when Vivian shared that growing up in America, people would ask her, where are you from? And she's like, where was it? Kansas? I can't remember.
Boulder.
Boulder. And she's like, I'm from Boulder. I live here. And they would be like, but where are you from? And she just didn't feel like she fit in. And it just opened my eyes to recognizing there's a way to ask those questions, though. Like, what is your ethnicity? And it's not a scary thing to ask, to be curious. It's a beautiful thing. You actually help people to feel seen about where they come from. So that was something, I loved that.
Our guests, most of them, I mean, a couple of them we've known, but most of them were meeting for the first time on Zoom or whatever. And it's, I've been so stretched. I mean, honestly, hi, and you know, we go over the vision and what we're trying to do, and you dive in with total strangers. And they've been amazing, very kind, very authentic and willing, you know, great sports. But in those 45 minutes or whatever we're talking, you know, we make these friends, you know, and I've been stretched, and, you know, we've had all different ages, all different ethnicities, you know, geographic experiences, life stories. It's been beautiful. So thank you, you know, for all of these people that you've introduced us to. One of the other ones I think about is Patricia Rabin. And Patricia and I did know each other, and in fact, we're neighbors in Denver. And I've known Patricia for, 30 years, not like best buddies, but professionally, kind of. We've served on a board together. We've spoken at similar events together. I first read her first book, My First White Friend, when I was, I don't even know, in my 30s, I think. But I have been so blown away by Patricia. She has a daughter who's Muslim, And we've walked some journeys together with our children when they are in places that you didn't see coming, or maybe you're scared about or whatever. And Patricia always stays. That in our conversations with her, it's like, what do you do in relationships, as we were talking, a while back, that are difficult or surprising to you or different from you? She said, she talked about staying. And I love that. What a beautiful principle. Stay with the difficulty. Stay with the discomfort.
Yes.
Stay with the love. She's shaped me a lot.
Yeah.
And I happen to know that's episode 15 because I had that in my notes too. Because it was such a powerful conversation.
She's just super wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And humble.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one element of the show that has just been brought up over and over, and this word keeps coming to my mind.
Pivot. So good.
Yeah.
It's just how unplanned all of it is. Like as producers, we
so good.
That's so good. But as producers, we do this research about all of these people, and like we read their books, we look at their website, we do all of these things, and we prepare these questions, and then we get into the conversation, and it's always so unexpected. And one of my favorites, who I wasn't here for at the time, but Ellie Holcomb. I had never heard of her before, but I listened to that episode because as an intern, I had to listen to all of them to kind of get caught up and know what had been talked about. And she was so authentic and real with her story and her pain and her healing. And I remember talking to Mary Jo about it and learning that none of that was planned. That was not where we thought the conversation would go. And it all was just unexpected. And so I've just loved listening to these episodes. And I'll admit, as a producer, I'll go into them with like, okay, they need to talk about this and this. This is the mission. We've never talked about this before. But then before every recording, we just pray that God would take the conversation where it needs to go, and he always does, and it's so unexpected and so great. So
I've got goosebumps.
I know.
Yeah.
And there's always tears too.
Oh,
yes.
And then they're crying, and then I'm crying. I can see you're about to cry, and we're all a mess in the best way.
It just totally underlines why it's supposed to be called God Hears Her. I mean, he just takes it. And in that moment, and I guess probably a lot of listeners don't realize that it's not planned. That it's just a conversation that unfolds. But if you realize that when you're listening, I hope that convinces you every time you listen that God hears you.
Yes.
That's what I really hope.
Yeah.
And isn't that life, though, in general, is we plan and we try to control and we try to set up things the way we think that they should go, what we think is best, and how often God shows up and is like, I think actually this is going to be better.
Right.
And oftentimes we lose our minds when God does that. Or when Elisa starts off with a show like with Laura Smith. Like,
stressed me out.
Have you ever been left?
I know.
I was just like, know that was going to be asked, and I'm like,
hi, nice to meet you.
Have
you been left?
It's like, well, left at like the movies, or like left relationally, or
vicariously being a store.
It's true though.
And how we can freak out as producers in that moment or whatever, because we're like, where is this going to go? And
the guest
probably be
is
good for them
there.
to know each other first before they get to that or something. But then how God can push through that, right? Like we think we want control often.
Do you? Daniel,
and
where do you think
we
that
want
comes
to plan.
Tell us more about that.
I would like
Let
to
me
hear you
unpack that. Where does that come from?
But then we find out God's ways really are better than our ways, even when life doesn't seem to be looking like it's better.
We've kind of talked about my journey with God Hears Her being starting in the contact center and just feeling really fortunate to be here as a producer today as well. But when we brought up earlier me not liking women things, women shows and conferences and that sort of thing, I will say I feel very just grateful the journey that God took me on through God Hears Her, because it all happened while working on this show. I was single in the contact center. I got married and started working on the show as a producer. I've had a baby now, and it's not that life is full of rainbows and butterflies now, but I can see in all those different times and moments where God has met me, where he has heard me, And I think that that's just really important for me to bring up, because I don't want women to feel like if life feels stagnant, like that's either when they're going to feel heard or when they're not going to feel heard. Like he's going to meet you in every single transition, and you don't have to feel alone in that either. There's community out there that can talk to you about that sort of thing. So I it's a little, like talking about myself, but I just want to make sure people hear, like, there are transitions that I hate change. I hate it so much. And I'm in change right now. And so just knowing that God hears me and that he's able to meet me here, just don't feel alone in that. I just want to encourage women out there today for that.
I love that, because, you know, to your point, like, we've all shared in some ways the birth of God Hears Her. We all had our pains and insecurities and rejection and some sort of something that has been spoken over us, or that we've been told that the enemy really wanted us to believe and to live out. And I just think it's gorgeous how literally each one of us have been told something, and then God Hears Her is the birthplace of God saying, no, I hear you, I see you, you are loved, I have a different plan, and I'm going to transform you with the guests that I bring on the show. And then in relationship with all our different Enneagram types and temperaments and all. I just think it's so good. It is. It's so good. In the words of my grandfather, that's what he would say. Yes, every time you say so good, think about my old grandpa.
I like that I know the origin now.
And that maybe reminds me of one last thing that's worth mentioning too. When we invite the listener or speak with the listener as a part of the community, it's because we're being shaped by the show. And we know and hope that they are. And it's one of the intentional reasons that oftentimes we have people on the show that aren't an author or a speaker or Christian celebrity regular or person. Whatever. It's just regular people like us who find out that God hears us and sees us.
Favorite episode. Each one of them has been a guest. It's been great to have. I was like, what are we doing? Because I was like, how am I supposed to know this person? When you and it's been fantastic to have everyday people.
Because everybody has a story.
That's right.
Everybody.
And God meets us in those stories. So as we draw this conversation to a close, we're thankful for you who join us in our community as God Hears Her. The show's not done yet. So if you have ideas for things you'd like to hear on the show, you're a part of the community. So please share with us, especially on social, what some of the ideas are that you'd have for the show or guests you'd like to see, so that we can feature some of those stories as we go and some of those guests. This is the part in the show where we cue the music again, and one of us has to write words for Eryn and Elisa to read or sometimes misread.
Wait, that's nothing to say ever.
I'll never forget the first time that I wrote for Eryn to say, and I'm like sitting at my desk writing, as a single woman, That's when I knew I had arrived in my career.
In my shadow.
But this is the part where we mention the show notes, and if there's anything that we've mentioned, like some of the links for some of the episodes we've mentioned and stuff like that, we'll have that in the show notes as well. Or at our website, godhearsher.org. That's godhearsher.org. And don't forget,
God hears you.
He sees you.
He loves you.
Because you are his.
God Hears Her is a production of
Our Daily Bread Ministries.